Welcome to the Budget Mom YouTube channel. I'm Kamika Love from thebudgetmom.com. Today we are going over something a little bit different. We're stepping away from more of the budget recaps and the real life budgets. And today I'm going to be showing you how I put together my 2023 Budget by Paycheck Workbook or Budget Workbook. The reason I wanted to show this today is because I am using the newly designed PDF version of the Budget by Paycheck Workbook that we released just a little while ago in 2022. So the normal worksheets that you usually get from the Budget by Paycheck Workbook when it is shipped to your door or when you order it through the PDF, I'm not using some of those worksheets. In fact, because I use the PDF version and I was able to print out what pages I wanted, I organized my workbook a little bit differently this year. And I've been getting a lot of requests to show on video how I set up my budget workbook for the new year. So let's dive in. So for this year, I'm using the new debt-free PDF version of the Budget by Paycheck Workbook. Now, for all of my favorite budgeting supplies, so maybe you see like the tabs or you see the discs for my binding here, or you're wondering like what laminator I use, all those different things, I'll make sure to put up a link in the description of this video full of all of those things so you know which tools I use. But today this video is just to go over exactly how I organize my workbook. So let's open this up. So for the PDF version, the great thing about the Budget by Paycheck Workbook, it's undated. And with the PDF version, you get a couple of ways to print it. You can print your pages front to back, or you can print them single-sided. Now I like to print my workbook single-sided. That's what you're going to be seeing in my workbook today. And I'm using worksheets not just from the Budget by Paycheck Workbook PDF printable, but also the free resource library. And I'll make sure I put a link in the description of the video to access that. So I'm kind of just accumulating all of the worksheets that I felt I needed to be successful and the tools I really wanted to use to measure my success in the new year, and I put them all together. So first thing is the financial plan. Short-term, medium, and long-term goals. It's really important to find clarity around what you're trying to accomplish with your money. That's beyond just a new year, but going forward indefinitely. And these goals can change over time. So I had to reevaluate my goals for 2023. Now I had mentioned on my Instagram, when I got married in September, me and my husband had dreams of growing our family. So to prepare for those dreams, whether they're a reality right now or not, to prepare for those dreams, we are starting a baby fund. So if that does happen in our near future or in 2023, we'll be prepared for that. So I want to have a $3,000 baby fund set aside. I also want to start a fence fund. Now this is to fence our entire property, which is there's a lot of acres. So I believe my overall goal will be higher than this, but this is just to start for 2023. I want to have the $6,000 by the end of the year, and same with my baby fund by the end of the year. My big long-term goal that I want, within after 10 years. So this is happening way out in the future. We have a dream of building a barn dominium for animals and for a new Airbnb space on our property. So I'm wanting $300,000 for that, and I need that by 2032. That's the goal. So short-term goals are within 1 year, medium term within 5 years, long term within 10 to 15 years. The next thing that I have is my budget category organizer. So when you are tracking your spending, consistency is really important. Because if you're trying to track trends or see maybe some spending issues that you have regarding your budget, or maybe you're overspending, you can't identify those if you keep changing the categories in which you organize your spending. So here's all of my different budget categories with the color that I use for that budget category, as well as what expenses fall under each category. So this just helps me stay consistent when it comes to my spending and tracking my spending. The next thing after that, I have my new 2023 Savings Challenges Tracker. Now this year we announced that all savings challenges, all 12 of them, one every single month, are gonna be free this year in the Budget Mom. And you can join, I'll make sure I put a link on where you can join these savings challenges on Facebook or via my newsletter, my Friday newsletter, in case you don't have Facebook. But this is where I'm gonna be tracking those savings challenges and how much I save for each one right here on this tracker. Just a good visual and motivation. The next thing, and I'm just gonna turn this, the next thing I have is really clarity around specific savings goals that I have for upcoming or expected expenses. We call these sinking funds. So I'm saving for things like Christmas, Valentine's, back to school, James, husband's birthday, property taxes, sports, Costco, house maintenance, disport, car maintenance, pest control. These are all the things that I'm really short-term expected expenses I know I'm gonna need the money for coming in 2023. This tracker, this savings tracker, helps you figure out how much you need to save each month or possibly each paycheck to reach your savings goal by your due date. And this is in my free resource library. So that's my tracker, my sinking funds savings tracker. Next, I have one of my sinking funds saving visuals. So I have this in here to track more of my smaller goals. I also have a visual board with some other bigger goals and savings trackers, but this is what I have in my workbook. I'm tracking my baby fund, Valentine's, back to school, and the fencing. You can see I color in as I save up for those goals. So you can see, for instance, back to school, I came into the new year because last year we didn't use all of my son's back to school fund. And since we didn't use all of his back to school fund, we rolled it over into 2023. So I'm starting the year with a lot of it already saved. But essentially, I just take my goal amount divided by how many cubes, and that tells me how much each cube is worth. And then I write that down and I just color in as I reach that amount. So I have my sinking funds tracker, then my visual goal. The next one I have is my membership and subscription. So these are your things that aren't your normal monthly fixed expenses. We call these periodic expenses. These happen either semi-annually or annually or quarterly. So some subscriptions and memberships examples might include like Amazon Prime. I have a magazine subscription, Costco. So those big things that only maybe happen once or twice a year that you know is gonna happen, you can write down how much it's cost annually and then how much the monthly cost is to save to be prepared for that big expense. So those just helps me too, like, okay, these things are gonna be coming out of my checking account on these dates. So that's really helpful. I make sure I put those on my budget calendar so I don't forget them. Now this isn't filled out yet, and I will do a video I've been getting some questions about the yearly spending overview. This is basically to track on a year basis to see over a long period of time, a year, of where your money is going. So, or what you had coming in as far as inflow or income. So income up here, and then I like to track my budget categories, and I'll fill this out as I go in every month. So January, February. Now this isn't filled out because I'm not finished with January yet, but that's the yearly spending and it goes over 2 pages. So that's the beginning of my workbook. These are kind of like the things that I look at a lot, and my planning documents, my motivational tracking documents, that type of thing. And then we get into like the meat and the meat of my budget by paycheck workbook. So January, got my tab, and then I go right into my budget calendar. This is where I write down my pay date, my bills. If I'm spending money on it, it goes on my budget calendar. Now, as you can see, I printed all of them out all the way to December. Why is that? Because I like to plan ahead. If I know I have a wedding coming up in June, I can mark it on my calendar so I know I have to have that in my budget. And I can start saving for it now in January. Have a vet appointment coming up in April? Okay, I can write that on my calendar. So I like to plan out ahead of time when I know things are happening. I then have my paycheck budget. Now, I budget my money every single time I'm paid, which is currently just once a month on the 1st. So you're gonna see one paycheck budget tracker for January. I have my cash envelope breakdown for that specific budget. Now, if you are paid multiple times a month, maybe you get paid 4 times a month, you would have 4 paycheck budget trackers and 4 cash envelope breakdowns if you are using the cash envelope method. You would not need this page if you are not using cash for spending. Then we get into my expense trackers. So I like to have one for cash spending and I like to have one for checking account spending. I keep 4 in the beginning of each month. I like to have. And then we get into my where did my money go, like my monthly budget category breakdown, my monthly investment and savings breakdown, and my monthly spending comparison. Now remember, I'm using the debt-free version of this, and so if you're not using the debt-free version and you're using our regular budget by paycheck workbook, this will say monthly savings and debt breakdown instead of investments. Monthly spending comparison, and then I have my monthly meal plan for January. I do need to fill this out. I'm gonna do that today and get that finished because I actually did my meal plan on Saturday. So this is done for the first week anyways. And then we get into a notes page. Then what I'm doing is I'm adding every single savings challenge into that month. So for instance, our first savings challenge for 2023 in January was our holiday goal savings challenge. So I have that, all the materials that were given for that challenge in this month as well, and I'm tacking that on to the end of the month after my financial worksheets. And that's it. That's what I'm doing for every single month. And I have it all printed out and ready to go. And that is how I'm organizing in the worksheets I'm utilizing this year for my 2023 budget workbook. The tools and resources you choose to have or put in your budget is going to be different for everyone. But what's really important is to make sure that you're utilizing resources and tools that make a true impact on your financial journey and make your journey easier. Whether they're worksheets that you're filling out and coloring to keep you motivated, maybe it's a savings tracker. Maybe it's an overview so you can bring awareness around your spending into your life when you're creating your budgets. Maybe it's a budget calendar so you can better plan out your paycheck and your bills. Whatever it may be, make sure that you are using worksheets that work for you, not necessarily what someone else has in their budget binder or budget workbook. If you found this video helpful, please like it and don't forget to subscribe. Testing, testing. Welcome to the Okay. Is this still recording? Okay.